Disclaimer, this show is for educational purposes only and is not an alternative for clinical counseling. Please seek a mental health professional for your specific needs.
Welcome back to Intake Talk Show with your host, Bertha F. Barrett, licensed mental health counselor. Today, we're continuing our conversation with Marae Crockett, licensed family therapist, and Alexandra Roa, certified trauma healing professional. This is part 2, and we're diving deeper into our topic, sweeping it under the rug, and how avoiding difficult emotions and experiences can impact your mental health. Your Intake podcast starts now.
Now, from a personal standpoint, growing up, what does sweeping it under the rug look like in your own families?
I'll say there's a lot of very straightforward, strong women in my family. My family's made up of mostly women. I think they swept some things under the rug when it came to relationships. And the way they went about it was staying busy. Always having something that they're trying to achieve. Working a lot. Planning something. They were always busy instead of being still and sitting with some of the pain that came up from whatever it is that they had to deal with. And so that's what it looked like in my family, was just busy work.
Alex?
Walking on eggshells.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sort of at the emotional mercy, maybe, or at the mercy of the head of my household's emotional roller coaster, instability. So it was often, rather than having conversations about this wasn't appropriate the way you reacted about whatever it was he's not open to having the conversation, so we just have to walk on eggshells and avoid setting off the dynamite wherever possible.
I can relate to both of what you all just said, right? The women in my family was, again, this idea of what we call strong, whatever that is. And they busied themselves. They cooked a lot, right? And they worked themselves like crazy. And that was their way of not having to deal with it, okay? Not having to deal with it. And again, walking on eggshells. Because with me growing up, and this is what I remember this. I still remember it. I'm 57 years old. My mother is no longer here. I loved her to life. I was a little girl, and my mother told us that she was going to take us to the movies. And she's sitting out on the porch, and she's talking to the neighbor. And I'm like, Mom, are we going to go to the movies? And she said, no, I'm too tired. And so me, a little girl, I had to be like 5, right? And I remember this clearly. And I said, well, Mommy, you told me a story. You said we was going to go to the movies. And my Lord, my mother stood up and said, are you calling me a lie? And she was getting ready to backhand me because how dare you? Right? And as a 5-year-old, I was just saying, well, you told me you was taking me to the movies. Right? But I was to never speak of that again, right? I was never to say anything about that. I couldn't go to her and say, well, Mom, what you did, what you said, it hurt my feelings, right? Because now I was wrong for doing that, okay? Even as an adult, I remember sitting down and talking to my mother, and I reminded her of some things. Well, we did have this family meeting one time when my mother was living, and we were trying to talk to her about some things, and what she said is, my children just love to lie on me, right? Now, in the same concept, I have 2 beautiful daughters, okay? And I remember how my sisters was like looking with tears in their eyes because they had just poured their heart out, right? And that same concept, though, I have 2 beautiful daughters. My youngest called me one time and told me, Mom, I just want to talk to you because I remember when I was this age, you said this and it was really hurtful to me. And I'm realizing how much that thing is ruminating in me. And immediately I had a flashback of my mother. And I thought, how do I want to handle this? And I could not for the life of me remember what she was talking about, right? Which told me that I was somewhere in my own emotions. But what I said to her is, love, I so apologize. I cannot remember, but if I caused you some pain and I caused you some hurt, I am so sorry. Right? That was never in my intent. I love you too much to hurt you. That freed her right then. Right? And so that's what I mean, the sweeping it under the rug. Okay? Because that 5-year-old little girl grew up to be this adult woman who was afraid. I think I was like 29 before I even used the word lie. I was still saying story. Right? Because I'm serious. I'm so serious. Because in my house, lie was a curse word. Right? And in my house, I have those authoritative parents, my mother at least, okay? In my house, you dare not question me, right? And so in not questioning her, there were things that were happening and I didn't feel comfortable talking to her about it when I should have as a little girl who should have never experienced some of these things. Does that make sense? And so this is why I want to have this conversation, because again, I realize that there are people out there who have experienced some things as a little girl, as a little boy, and now they're an adult. They could never go to mom, dad, talk about it because again, children just did not have that space, right? I grew up in an era where children were to be seen, not heard, okay? And so you didn't have a voice. Okay, you're just supposed to be seen. You don't go to parents and talk to them and say, hey, can I talk to you? Who are you? Right? You got to stay right there where you are. And so I remember that era. Now, when I see these people doing what they call gentle parenting, right? That brings everybody in an uproar. No, you got to discipline. You got to do with. I'm respecting gentle parents, whatever they call it, because what it says to me is, and they know what I know, is that there was no rule around parenting, and the old traditional parenting caused a lot of trauma. But now in this new wave of parenting, they're trying to say, no, this little person has a voice and teach that little person they have a voice. This little person has emotion and teach that little person that they have emotions. So I want to talk about these things because I realize my personal experience, listening to friends, listening to past coworkers, all of that, that there is this invisible rug that we don't talk about, but we sweep it under and we carry it with us, right? I told you all, it was 29 before I ever said lie, and I was in a relationship, right? And the first time I said lie to this man, it was like I was getting ready to have to put my dukes up, right? Because he said, because then I came into the relationship like a little girl. And coming into that relationship like a little girl is how he wanted to treat me. This is why I have these conversations later. Okay? Alex, I
For
see you
me,
wheels turning. Talk.
yeah. So in my house, I was raised by Italian parents, and my dad's from the South, and culturally, it's I think a lot of overlap from what you described. Um, and raising an issue or what my father would call talking back is me being dramatic, is me being disrespectful, is me not respecting his authority, and so and being confrontational. But what I think I internalized was that voicing my feelings not only was then being dramatic considered a bad thing, but also voicing my experience was a bad thing. So then if I felt the need to do so, it became really terrifying because now I want to do something that's bad. Yeah. And I think, both of you spoke about the neural pathways, right? Our inner belief systems and how all of that can shape how we approach things. And for sure, I think I carried a lot of those labels with myself for a long time and had to do a lot of my own inner work to sort of realize stuff that was swept under the rug and just, oh, you're being dramatic. Go away. Stop it. Or whatever, right? But really, it was just invalidation in that person's capacity to not be able to hear me and be present and validate my feelings.
Yeah.
you know?
Alex, I'm wondering,
Yeah.
like, at what age did you realize it was them in their capacity?
So that's a great question.
Yeah.
And I think that for my father, it happened a lot sooner than for my mother, because the culture in Italians is the mother is a saint and the mother can do no wrong. So I even went to therapy for years before I could even mention anything critical about my mother at all. I just couldn't. I just couldn't. My mother's a saint. Nothing is her fault. She does the best she can. She gives everything to the family, which I'm not saying isn't true. Um, but it became hard to even acknowledge. It was very hard, excuse me, to acknowledge that I had challenging feelings towards her difficult feelings towards her, because of the culture of your mother is the perfect angel and she can do no. So if I feel something bad about her, then there's something wrong with me for feeling it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that was probably into my 30s where I got to the point where I could say, my mom said this and it made me feel like that.
Yeah.
And for a long time, even, sorry, I'm going to finish in a second. I'm just doing, and my
Okay.
mom, for a long time, she even said, she knew that I was going and she'd be like, so what'd you talk about? Did you mention me? Did you mention me? What did you
Yeah.
say? And so it became like even more like terrifying because I wanted that space for myself. But at the same time, I didn't want to disappoint my mom.
Right. Right. I love it. I love it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hear you, ladies. I hear you. While you were talking, Alexander, um,
Yeah.
I was thinking, and I'm just going to confess now, even in the midst, and I'm going to tell, and this is why I want to say it, because I want viewers and listeners to understand how deeply conditioning is. And that is, even as I was talking, my mother is long gone. I loved her with all of my heart. Wish she was still here today. Okay. Um, that voice in my subconscious, that childhood voice that was taught, don't you dare, right? It started coming to the forefront and go, you better not say that. You better not expose. No, I'm serious. I'm sitting here talking and it's going, how dare you expose that? What if your family hear this? What if they watch this? By the way, my
I had
family
that
don't
thought.
watch this, right? But if they do, I'm okay with it because my family know I'm moving in a space of healing now, okay? And I've learned to do that for my own self. At 57 years, and I started late, you guys. I started like on 40, where I was like, girl, you can't carry this stuff no more. You gotta start healing, right? So I want viewers and listeners to realize how deep conditioning works. But even when that little voice comes to you that says, don't you dare. Don't you dare say that. Don't you dare talk about that. It's okay for you to do what is good for you, right? Because the more you do it, can I say, the quieter that little voice get? Because there was a day when that voice was loud. You better not shame your people and talk about these things. Now it just gets quieter, but it's there, right? And I have to say no, because I understand how this beautiful brain of mine, of yours, work, right? And by saying no, I'm not doing this, right? I want to heal. I want to live in my truth. I understand that I rewired that brain. So I love these
It's
conversations, lady. I absolutely do.
for
I want to
sure.
ask you now, for the listeners, for the viewers that are watching, okay? What does reclaiming emotional space look like? Can you tell them that? Both in their own journey, um, or just tell me, what does um, reclaiming emotional space look like in their own journey? For those people who are married too, okay, whether it's in their own journey or even in their marriage, right? Because again, I've been married, I don't know, 20 something years. He knows better than I do. Okay. But I know, and I'm grateful to God that we've learned to deal with this. Because my husband is 14 years older than me, and for a long time, because we come from two totally different generations, right?
Mhm.
And because we both were raised with this idea that you just don't talk about it, right? We found ourselves walking in the house and not talking to each other.
Mhm.
We just smile. Yeah, you
Mhm.
okay? I'm okay. Okay, bye. Have a good day, right? But when I decided, no, I gotta heal from this. I can't be carrying this stuff. You need to come over here and let's talk, right? And sometimes that meant him just going, I don't talk about this anymore. Okay, when you go to your room, you chill, watch some sports or something. When you're ready, you come back, we gonna talk. But we ain't gonna keep sweeping, right? And now the space has opened, okay? And so I want to talk about how does reclaiming emotional space look like individually and in these relationships that we go into. And remember, we live a life of relationships, whether it's marriage, family, friendship, we live a life of relationships. So what does that look like?
That's a really good question. Um, I think it looks like knowing what is on the table for you personally,
Mhm.
right? So you don't have to talk about the hardest thing you've ever had to talk about in your life,
Mhm.
in a space where you don't really know if it's safe enough.
Mhm.
But can you talk about something that's a little difficult or has affected you a little bit? Can you
Mhm.
kind of start there to see if it's safe
Mhm.
enough to bring up some of the deeper things, um, and see if it can hold some of those deeper
Mhm.
things? That's how you start to take baby steps towards reclaiming a space because you need to know if it's safe in the first place.
I love it. I love it. Alex?
I think I took a different approach to this answer.
Okay.
I think the first part is boundaries.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Is really kind of okay. I need to create a space where I can process my emotions and I can
Mm-hmm.
stabilize even, right? So in order to do that, if I'm constantly being triggered and I'm constantly being poked at and I'm constantly putting myself in an environment where I'm on that roller coaster, you're not really going to achieve the goal. So so for me it's boundaries, stabilization, time spent reflecting, self-care, and then overall prioritizing your well-being.
I
So
love
whatever that looks like in whatever context, I think those are sort of the keys to get
I
there.
Mhm.
love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Boundaries is key. Because for a lot of people, boundaries is a curse word.
Mhm.
I'm just saying it's a bad thing, right? And the
Mhm.
reality is you do have to create that atmosphere, right? I think the reason why I am transparent, I ain't gonna tell all my business now. Let me just say that. But the reason why I am transparent in certain areas is because I've learned how to be at peace with me, right? And I've learned that my voice, my experience, okay, will help somebody, okay? And that's why I say the few things that I do because I understand. And even as this therapist, I'm human.
Mhm.
And sometimes we think, even the people that may come to you, they see you as the expert, this person, you have all the knowledge, right? And they forget that you're human. And sometimes if you're not careful, you can forget that you're human. Okay. But human experiences happen. And human experiences are what we have to talk about more often to help people heal. Okay. I and this is what I was listening, hearing, or both of you all were talking. The same way I just talked about this gentle parenting. Um, it was so funny. I just recently wrote a book called Gentle Relationships, right? And it was based on this, and it's really based on this idea. Quickly, I went to go pick up my 4-year-old daughter from Montessori school, and the teacher came, she was putting on her shoes, and one of the teachers came and said, "You're such a big girl. You're such a big girl." And something in me just went, right? And so I said to the teacher, I said, how often do you say this to the children? Oh, we say it all the time, especially if they have a younger sibling and, they're crying. We have to say, no, you got to be a big girl or a big boy for the younger for your sister or your brother. And I say, do you understand what kind of problem that could pose? And the teacher stood there and looked at me. I said, I'm sorry, dear. I'm kind of different. I'm a mental health professional and I see things differently. I'm sorry. But do you understand that this is a problem with saying that to children? Because what you're telling her is that her emotions don't matter. And she should act this way for her little brother? Do you know how you're setting them up? And the teacher stood there for a little while and she said, oh my goodness, I can see that. I said, exactly. Because I tell her she's not a big girl. No, she's 4 years old. She's a child. And I want her to know that at 4, at 20, at 30, she can feel her emotions. She can talk about her emotions, okay? She doesn't have to put on this strength that we all think we have to put on and play this role for somebody else. Well, the thing bothered me so much, I had to come home and it took me some days and I had to write a book about it, right? And the reason why I'm saying that, because the premises of it is, if we learn how to be gentle with ourselves, because the longest and the most profound relationship we will ever be in is with self. If we learn how to be gentle with our emotions, our thoughts, our feelings, that means respecting, okay? That means listening to this thing in our body that says, this hurts, I'm being triggered, okay? I need to do something about this. If we learn how to be gentle with our internal self, then it starts to pour out in the relationships that we enter. Thus is the setting the boundaries, okay? Self boundaries and boundaries in these relationships, because then we create an atmosphere that we can feel safe in versus tolerating atmospheres that we don't feel safe in.
Mhm.
So I love that.
And I think demonstrating to our children
Mm-hmm.
that, first of all, it's a priority,
Mm-hmm.
ourselves, taking care of yourself, and then also choosing what environments you put your energy and time into,
Right. I love it.
and how that's valuable.
Oh, yes. Oh, I
Yeah.
love that. You
I
have
think
something to say, Lauren?
I think the boundaries help set the standard
Mm-hmm.
for your lifestyle after a while, right? So now the standard is I'm only around people who want to see me happy and healthy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it does. And let me just say too, for those who are listening, that setting those boundaries and creating that atmosphere doesn't mean that you still don't love those people that you love.
Yeah.
I call it learning how to play Cinderella. And when you set those boundaries and create an atmosphere that you're at peace in, even when it comes to, let's just say, for example, family. When it comes to family and you want to be around your family, you got to know how to be Cinderella. What do I mean by that? You got to know that if it takes a good 45 minutes before somebody walk in that door, say something that's going to make me go, ugh, then at 44 minutes, I need to say, it was good. I love y'all. I'll see y'all later and I'm out. Right? Because it teaches you that balance. That's true. And you got to learn how to be Cinderella in some relationships. So I don't mean try to control the situation, because I think that's it. Some people think if you're setting boundaries in a way to keep yourself whole, healthy, right, that you're trying to control a situation. You're not. Okay? What you're saying is, I deserve to be whole. I deserve to be healthy. All right, ladies. Y'all can see I can talk when it comes to these things. And I'm an introvert, but I can talk when it comes to stuff like this. Okay? So if you had to leave the viewers with one thing, what would that thing be? The listeners, what would you leave with them?
I would say to listen to their bodies and to take baby steps in their healing journey.
Mhm.
But I will also say, if they have to be honest with anybody, be honest with themselves first.
Yeah. Yeah, love it.
Yeah, I think love yourself first. So it's about, you can't fill an empty cup.
Hmm.
So pour into you so that, you know, you can enjoy all of the other relationships around you, but your cup is the most important.
I love it. I love it. And for you viewers and listeners, I'm going to provide you all with a free resource. I'm going to put a link down below just to give you some steps, some of the things that we talked about on how to go about sweeping, pulling up under this rug and healing that emotional trauma, healing that, family, whatever, relationships, whatever it is that you've noticed that has been under this rug, causing something uncomfortable in your life. I am going to provide you all with a resource and a link. So it'll be down in the comments, or you can just go to intaketalkshow.com and download that resource. Again, ladies, I thank you for being here. Why don't you tell the audience how they can find you? Although your information will be on the website, why don't you tell the listeners, viewers, how they can find you? If you're accepting clients right now, let them know. Okay.
Yeah, you can find me on Google, so you could just put my name in. I come right up, Marae Crockett, or you can find me at evolvehealinghouse.com,
Mhm.
and I'll come right up on there as well.
All right.
I'm evolving inward with Alex. There's a website, so it's .com, or I'm on TikTok and Instagram with that same handle. And I am taking new clients, and I primarily work over Zoom remote.
I love it. I love it. Thank you again, ladies, for being here, for sharing with me, for being transparent. I appreciate that. And I welcome you back to have more conversations with me. As you can see, I'm a passionate person. Yeah, I love having conversations like this because I know that it's needed. This is the name intake, because everything that we intake, it affects us, and we have to start talking about these things. So thank you so much for being here, and you're welcome to come back and have more conversations with me anytime.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you. It was great. It was great.
Thank you. And
Appreciate the
to you,
opportunity.
thank you. And to you, the viewer and the listener, thank you for listening, for viewing. And until the next time, I want you to continue to talk about mental health and how to make yours a priority. Have a great one. If you are a professional or someone with a story and would like to be a guest on the show, go to our website, intaketalkshow.com, and complete the form to be a guest. Perhaps you are someone with a question or comment that you would like addressed on the show. Again, go to our website, intaketalkshow.com, and complete the contact form. I hope to see you soon. And remember to continue to talk about mental health and how to make yours a priority.
This wraps up our conversation with Marae and Alexandra. If today's episode resonated with you, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Share your comments, questions, or reflections on YouTube, Facebook, or your favorite podcast platform. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you never miss an episode. Join us next week as we explore another important conversation around mental health. Thank you for listening and watching.